Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Now today we're going to have a little bit of fun and I'm going to show you how to make a crocheted rainbow with these puffy clouds on the bottom of it. Now for the puffy clouds I'm using this chenille wool. Use as thick as a white wool as you can get for your clouds. It needs to be as thick as you can. If you don't have a really thick wool like this, then use a white and double it and make your clouds with the yarn doubled over, so you can thicken up your yarn if it's thin by doubling it up. But I've got this really one ball of this really fluffy chenille I'm going to do for my clouds. Now I used this odd ball that I had with all these different colours in it, just like a rainbow, and I took it off and I made, oops, I need that part I think, no I don't, that's at the middle of the bowl, and I got all these little balls, coloured balls. So it's up to you what colours you do your rainbow. You can do them pastel colours, you can do them bright colours like this, it's up to you. So I'm going to show you how to make this really easy little rainbow. The hooks I've used, I'm going to use a 6mm for my clouds, and I'm using a 4.5. This is a 4.5mm hook to actually do the rainbows. So I'll zoom in and I'll show you how to do this. It's really easy. So what I did was I started with 25 stitches. I'm going to crochet 25. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to do another 3 chain, 1, 2 and 3. Into the 4th stitch in my chain I'm going to do a treble crochet. Now I'm working with treble crochets. If you're in the UK, this is a treble crochet. If you're anywhere else in the world, it's a double crochet. You can use a smaller stitch, it's up to you. So we're going in to there, and that gives us our first 2 treble crochets. So we've got 1 there and 1 there. I'm going to do another 2. So that's 3 and 4. So to make the rainbow into an arch like this, I'm going to put into the 5th stitch, I'm going to put 2 treble crochets. Put 2 treble crochets into that same stitch. So every 5th stitch we'll put 2 treble crochets. So there's 2 in that one. So we're going to do 4 treble crochets, 1 in each stitch. So that's 1, 2, 3 and 4. That's our 4 single ones, 1 in each stitch. Into the 5th stitch we're going to put 2 treble crochets. That's a double crochet if you're in the USA. So put 2 into that 5th stitch. So we're going to do 4 single ones, that's 1, into the next stitch, that's 2, into the next stitch, that's 3, into the next stitch, that's 4, and then I'm going to put 2 into this 5th one. It's 1 and 2. We're going to do that all the way along your chain. If you're making a bigger rainbow, you can still do the same and it'll still make it start to go round like that. So 2, 3 and 4. So I'm not finishing with a double crochet. If you've got an extra stitch, you can pick it out if you've got an extra stitch. So that gives you the start of your little rainbow. Got my scissors. I'm just going to finish this. Make sure you leave a long enough tail to stitch in. Just finish that off. So I've got the start of my rainbow like this. I keep my scissors there. So my next colour is orange. Oops. So I've got my orange, and I'm just going back to the beginning. This first stitch here, I'm going into the top of that, and I'll pull my orange through. I'll leave enough to tie in the ends, or to sew in the ends. I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2 and 3. We're going to do 4 treble crochets and then 2 into the 5th stitch. So that's what, count the chain as 1, that's 2, 3 and 4, and then 2 treble crochets into that 5th stitch. So every 5th stitch we're going to double up, but not if you get to the end. If you get to the end and you put 2 in and you've only got 3 left, just crochet those 3. So we're going to do 4 treble crochets into the next, 1 treble crochet into the next 4 stitches. That's 1, 2, 3 and 4, and into the 5th one put 2 treble crochets. We're going to do that all the way along to the end. Don't worry if you've got an odd number of stitches when you get along here. I did my double up here and I've got 4 left. Don't worry if you don't have 4. Make sure I've got a big enough tail. We'll stitch all the tails in, we'll sew them all in. So I've got my red and my orange. Now I'm going to do my yellow. I've got my yellow next. So I've got a bit green on that. So I've got my yellow, and I'm adding that to the chain of 3. Just go back to the beginning. Make sure you've got enough of a tail to stitch your end in. Going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. That counts as your first treble crochet, and I'm going to put 1 treble crochet in the next 3 stitches and then put 2 in to that 5th stitch. So that'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll put 2 in. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, and then put 2 trebles in the next one, the 5th one. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2 in the 5th one, all the way along. So that's 1, 2, 3. So remember, you're counting your chain as a treble crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to put 2 into this next stitch. And 1. So I've done the last one. I'll just finish that off. So what we're going to do now is the next 2 rows we're going to double up. We're going to increase on the 6th stitch. We're going to increase on the 6th stitch so that we've got our nice rainbow is going to continue to go around. My next colour is my green. got my green. So again, I'm going to start in the third stitch in my chain, just pull my green through, make sure I leave enough to tie in the end. So I can stitch it in. 1, 2, 3. Now on all the following rows, you're going to put 2 treble crochets into this first stitch. So that chain of 3 counts as your first stitch. So we're going to put another one into there. That's 2. Just count those 2 as your first one. So that's in that first stitch, that's 1. Well, so this is my second stitch, so we're going to put 1 in there. This is my third stitch, 1 in there. This is my fourth stitch, 1 in there, and I'm going to put 2 in this fifth stitch. So we're going to count 4 again, all the way around. 2, 3, and 4, and put 2 treble crochets into the fifth stitch. Here, and I've put my 2 treble crochets into my fifth stitch, but I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 left. So I'm just going to crochet those 5 stitches and put 2 into the end one. Because we're adding extra stitches in, it's going to knock off the count a little bit, but don't worry about it. It'll still look like a rainbow. So I'm going to my last stitch. So this time I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm just keeping it even. So I'm going to put 2 into this last stitch here. Because you don't want to put 2 increased stitches right next to each other. So this is what it's looking like. Ta-da! So now I'm going on to my dark green. Got my darker green here. And again, we're going to go into the top stitch of that chain of 3. Make sure you leave enough of a tail to stitch your end in. So crochet 1, 2, 3, so chain 3 into that same stitch, put 1 more treble crochet. Now what we're going to do is we're going to increase every 6th stitch. So we'll count those 2 as our first stitch. So into the second stitch, put 1 treble, into the third stitch, put 1, the fourth stitch, put 1, the fifth stitch, put 1, and into the sixth stitch we're going to put 2. So we're increasing the space slightly in between the stitches to keep the rainbow on an arc. So we'll do 5, 1 treble crochet into the next 5 stitches. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, and then put 2 into the 6th stitch. 1 and 2. And again, when you get around to the end, you might have an odd number when we get around here, but don't worry about it. Your end's going to be hidden by your cloud. So I'll do that. I'll put 5, 1 treble crochet into the next 5 stitches, and then I'll put 2 into the 6th stitch, and then 1 double crochet into the next 5 stitches, and then into the 6th stitch I'll increase. So I've done my 5. Now this is my 6th stitch, and this is where the increase would go. But because I've got one other stitch, I'm just going to do a treble crochet into this one and put 2 into the end. So I'll cut my yarn. So there we go, this is the way your rainbow's looking just now. So the next colour on mine is blue. I've got my blue. You can do 2 rows if you want to do 2 rows to make a bigger rainbow. It's up to you. But it doesn't matter how many stitches you're using. If you do your chain in sets of 5, then you can make a much bigger rainbow if you want. So I'm going to pick up the top stitch in my chain of 3. So I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to put another stitch in that same stitch that the chain of 3 is in. It's a bit harder to see this. So I'm counting that as my first stitch. I'm going to put 1 into my second stitch, 1 treble into my second stitch, 1 into the third stitch, 1 into the fourth stitch, 1 into the fifth stitch. We're just copying the other row, and 2 into the sixth stitch. We'll increase on the sixth stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Put 2 into that sixth stitch. So we're going to do that all the way along. Now you will notice that I've just kept going to that end. I like having the pattern all on the one side. This is the reverse side. So I've just kept going back to the beginning and starting my next row. So I'll do a treble crochet into the next 5 stitches, and then I'll increase on the 6th stitch all the way along. And again, I might have an odd number at this side, but we'll just put our 2 on the end, and we'll see how many we've got left in between our stitches. So I've done my increase in my 6th stitch, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 left. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do an increase on the end here. So I'll still do my increase on this 4th stitch. It's a big enough gap. 1, 2, 3. So on my 4th stitch, this is my last stitch, I'm just going to put an increase in here. That's 1 and 2. These make beautiful, bright wall hangings as well. So I've put my 2 in there. I'm going to finish off, cut that off. So this is what we've got now. So into the top of my chain of 3, so I'm going to do a chain of 3, 1, 2, 3. The sun's just came out right on cue. So into that first stitch, I'm going to put 1 more treble crochet. So those 2 are in my first stitch. Put 1 into the next stitch. So for this round, we're going to put a double crochet. We're going to put our increase into our 7th stitch, into the 7th stitch. So that's our first stitch, our second stitch, 1 treble crochet into the 3rd stitch, 1 into the 4th stitch, 1 into the 5th stitch, 1 into the 6th, and we're going to put 2 treble crochets into the 7th stitch on our arc. We're going to do that all the way around to the end. So you're going to increase on the 7th stitch. So I've nearly finished my purple, and I've got my increase here, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so I'll be on my 7th stitch when I do my last increase. So because you're increasing around your arch, every now and then you'll have an odd number when you get to the end. Don't worry about it. So I'll put my increase in there, because all these increases on the end, they'll be hidden by your clouds. So I'll just finish that off, and that's it. So that's the rainbow finished. What I need to do now is I need to stitch in the ends. I'll use my darning needle and I'll stitch in the ends, but I'm going to show you how to make the little clouds that we did. I'll stitch those ends in later. So once you've got your ends stitched in, I'll show you how I made these fluffy little clouds. Now don't worry how your clouds look when you've got it finished, because clouds are not exactly the same, and I've got 2 different ones on each side of my little rainbow. So I'll show you how to do these fluffy clouds now. Now I'm using a size 6mm hook, and the yarn I've got is this chenille. It's a white chenille. Now if you don't have a fluffy yarn like this, just double up or use a really thick white yarn. If you don't have a thick one, then just double up some just normal white yarn. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a slip knot. I'll leave a big enough tail so that I can get that tucked in. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to chain. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12. So I've done a chain of 14 for this cloud one. If you haven't done enough, or not, if you've done too many, you can pick it out at the end if you've done too many, or just tuck it in. It won't matter, it's a cloud formation. So what we're going to do is, you can't really see with this yarn, I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to do a treble crochet into that 3rd stitch. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap my yarn around twice, and I'm going to do, in the UK, what's called a double treble crochet. If you're in another country, this is a treble crochet into that same stitch. It's all going into the same stitch. Now that's going to make your cloud a little higher. I'm going to do one more into that same stitch. So wrap your yarn around twice and work your stitch so you've got a nice high puff. So into the same stitch, we're just going to do a treble crochet. If you're in a different country from the USA, this is a double crochet. Put 2 treble crochets. Now this is all going into the same stitch. So into that same stitch again, we're going to do a slip stitch. Just do a slip stitch, and that'll bring your little cloud down into a puff. I know you can't see it very well, but it's a cloud, so it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to skip 1 stitch, and into the next stitch I'm going to do a treble crochet. We're going to work into this same stitch again. So that's one treble crochet. I'm going to put another one into the same stitch. Then I'm going to do yarn around my hook twice into the same stitch. We'll do that double treble, yarn around twice into the same stitch, then 2 treble crochets into the same stitch. I think I can see where this stitch is better than you can. And into that same one, just do a slip stitch. That pulls your little cloud formation down. We're going to miss 2 stitches and treble crochet. We'll just do treble crochets in this one. So this little puff is a little different. Where's my stitch? In there. That's 2. I'll do another treble crochet into the same stitch. That's 3, 1 more, 4, and I'll put a slip stitch it down, and what it does is making you these little puffy clouds. We'll skip a stitch and go into the next. Just treble crochet. It will stretch out and it will be enough to go along the end of your rainbow like this. So you just continue so to make sure it goes along the end. This isn't the one that I've just worked on. I've still got all my ends to sew in. I'll sew those in, but I'm just going to make sure that's long enough to fit from that side to that side of my rainbow. So we'll make another big puffy cloud here. So we're wrapping the yarn twice around the hook. And again, you can do it as many times as you like. Just make yourself a nice big puffy cloud. We'll do 3 in this one. And a normal treble. And I'll put a single crochet, just slip stitch down into there. I'll cut my yarn, but I'm going to leave a long enough tail to stitch this on to my rainbow. Pull that through there and use the wrong one. So I'll stitch this in and I'll use this long end to stitch it to my rainbow. So I've done one cloud. I'll do the other one. Just use double trebles and treble crochets. Make your little line of puffy clouds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew the ends of my rainbow in, and I'll show you how to stitch on your clouds. So it doesn't matter if it's too long. You can bunch it up and we'll sew it along the end of my rainbow. So I'll tidy up this, I'll make another set of clouds, and I'll come back and show you what to do next. So this is what my little rainbow looks like. I've got one of my little cloud formations on this side, and I've tidied all my ends in, and I'm going to stitch my other little cloud formation on this side. Now the fluffier yarn that you use, the better for this. And like I said, if you don't have a thick yarn, just double up some white yarn, and we're just going to stitch it willy-nilly along the end of our rainbow. It doesn't matter even if one of them comes around like this, as long as you hide that end and it makes the rainbow look as if it's going behind the clouds like this. So we're going to stitch that on. I might start at this end because it looks fluffier that way, doesn't it? So I'll just start at this end, and I've got my needle on my yarn already. I'm just going to go through the end of my rainbow here and just put a stitch through your clouds and come through the rainbow again. So we're just going to stitch that on along the end of the rainbow, as long as you don't see the edge of your rainbow when you've stitched it on. Just make sure your edge is hidden, that coloured edge. So you can just stitch through like this if you want. Just go from the back to the front. So I'm just going to cut off that little tail, and then there you go. That's my other little cloud formation done on the end of my rainbow. And this is the other rainbow that we did. So I've got two. I've got one in my front window and one in my back window. So thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel. Please click on that subscribe button there. Also, if you click on the bell icon, then you'll be notified by YouTube when I put up another tutorial. And it's free to subscribe. You can click on the subscribe button and it's free to subscribe. So until the next time, happy crafting, and I'll see you all again soon. Goodbye.